Howdy y'all, welcome in, welcome to Court Cowboy again. Thanks for joining in, thanks for tuning in. And today we're gonna pick up kind of where we left off last time. It's kind of late night here. Had to turn on these really bright lights, so it's gonna look a little bit different. But I just need to go ahead and get this out and make those picks. I think I mentioned that with the picks all year long, we're gonna go with the tabulation. We're gonna track throughout the year, see how I do. One category is gonna be, like I said, the Tarzan side, just a winner, loser. And then the real Wonderlic side is gonna be that with the odds. So we'll tabulate that throughout the year. Let's see how we do. It's gonna be interesting. And again, the Wonderlic side is just taking into account, say if I bet on some guy and he's a favorite, I gotta wager 160 to win 100. And then obviously you lose 160 if you lose, but take the other side of it. If I take a guy who's on the plus side, say I've got 100 to win 150. So it'll all wash out, and we'll see how it does wash out through the year. But I'm gonna have that tabulation, that graphic up on this later on here. But I'll make just a few picks that really look good to me. I'm not gonna overpick. I'm looking for ones that really look like they're gonna be winners. And in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and Don McCoy early on just to kind of get him in the mood. Say it is late at night, so let's make sure he's awake and get him going. And let's start off. We're gonna do another comp video, which I mentioned last time. I kind of enjoy doing this. I don't know why it thrills me so much to do this, to think in these terms. Probably a bit of a geek, a nerd. But today I'm gonna look at great ATP legends and their mirrors in soccer giants that I feel like are almost a doppelganger for their counterparts as ATP male tennis players. But as I mentioned last time in a preview, the first guy I really thought of in thinking about soccer to tennis, it's Borg and Zidane, Zizou. And first thing you think of, I think of, is just the way they carry themselves, the sort of the quiet, stoic confidence that just commands respect from competitors, teammates in Zizou's case. And then both of them obviously had great careers. Bjorn Borg, he never won that US Open, but he certainly won, I believe it was 5 straight Wimbledons, and I forget how many, was it 11? Yeah, 11 altogether, maybe 6 French and 5 US Opens, 5 in a row US Opens. But the way he kind of went out at age 26, and as I mentioned last time, he sort of ran into the immovable object in the form of John McEnroe to some degree, and then the ATP was really on his case about playing more tennis. He wanted to be home more, so they wanted to schedule him to play more, and they wanted him to have to qualify for the majors. I think that coupled with, of course, that 1980 final against John McEnroe, Wimbledon, that went into, I think it was 8-6 in the 5th, and then losing to McEnroe later that year in the US Open final. And then the same thing happening the next year, losing even more convincingly, I think in 4 sets in both cases in 1981 and Wimbledon, the US Open. So he exited the game at 26. I think he did make a comeback that was probably, I'm always thinking about the way Jordan looked when he came back. Still good players, but not themselves. And then in Zizou's case, of course, he led the French team in 1998 to the first ever World Cup. And then in 2006 came back and they were looking strong again. They breezed through competition. They beat, I believe, Brazil 3-0. I think he had a hat trick in that game, but then they ran into the Italians in the 2012 final. I'm trying to think of the name again for their defense. The Ciccanetti or whatever Doorbolt is in Italian. I always remember I'm forgetting it now. I think it's Ciangetti. It's something Cianecci. I'll have to look it up again. But the name of their defense was just stifling. They only gave up 2 goals in the entire 2012 World Cup, an own goal, and then the one penalty goal they gave up to Zidane in that final, which was 1-1. But Zidane was frustrated throughout. Ended up headbutting Materazzi in extra time. Then got red card, ejected from the game, and then they lost in penalty shootout 5-3. But that was the way he exited his career. That was the end of it. So a bit feel like he definitely had some soccer left, but it wasn't the way you wanted to see him go out. They did lose in penalty kicks, I think 5-3. And then same with Borg. Obviously, he retired probably even before his prime, sort of almost a Jim Brown sort of retirement, but at 26. So those guys, great winners, but great, really the way they carry themselves was remarkable. And I think that's a good comparison. And I think I have 8 more I'm going to roll through here. And a lot of these, I said, they just pop in, first gut reaction, and then you find sort of the metrics to back it up. But when I think about Messi, really the first guy I think about is Federer. I think about just the way both of them are such transcendent players. No one really plays the way each of these guys played their respective sports. Federer's attacking style hasn't been really emulated, yet baby fed, but poor imitation. Poor man's fed, maybe a better way to put it. And then Messi, the way he can, in his diminutive stature, just the magic of Messi. Even now, he still has it late into his career, in his 40s. But both guys, a lot of longevity, a lot of just natural talent, skill, sort of meant to play the game, it seems, and sort of embodied the best in the game, both these guys. Federer just represents tennis, both of them so magnanimous, so beloved all around the world, so respected. Obviously, both of them tremendous winners at levels. In Messi's case, I think he has 8 Ballon d'Ors. I think Ronaldo has 5. But just a great winner and widely respected. Same with Federer. Just a great winner throughout. And just love to watch him. Still root for them, or root for Messi in that case. But so those guys, to me, both of them considered the GOAT at different times. Now you can make an argument. Many people would still regard Federer as the GOAT, despite Djokovic's number of majors and win-loss head-to-head. But same with Messi. I think a lot of people would consider him to be the GOAT. Maybe he'll prove it even more as this World Cup gets played out. And then kind of on the same page there, you always had Federer had his great rival in Nadal. So Messi, Ronaldo, kind of the same. That's the parallel I see. That's the comp I see is Nadal, Cristiano Ronaldo. Both of them, and I know Ronaldo does get really irritated, agitated when people sort of insinuate that he had to really work hard to be the great player he is, that he didn't have the natural talent and skill that Messi has. But obviously he has that to be who he is, but no doubt that he's worked hard in every respect. He's taken great care of his body. He's done everything from a training and preparation standpoint to be at his best and turn himself into the best player he could. And that shows a great respect for the game. And same thing with Nadal. No harder work ethic. No guy is going to outwork Nadal, probably on or off the court. And both guys are just great competitive will. And obviously both guys tremendous winners. And in one way, you can kind of say both of them are a bit, you could make a sort of one-dimensional argument. Nadal, most of his winning taking place on clay, obviously the 14 Grand Slams on clay. And I believe the majority of his wins overall, I could be wrong about that, are on clay. But a great player, nevertheless, on all surfaces, on hard court grass, won every major. And the same thing with Ronaldo. I think he's always sort of seen as a bit one-dimensional, as just more of a selfish striker, not a guy who's going to get other people involved as much, not going to look for other people, not going to look to make the most beautiful plays, he's going to look to finish. And to some degree that's true, but I think he led the Champions League. He's led the Champions League all time in goals with 140, but also assists at 42. So just a prolific performer. And obviously all the championships he's won, I think he won the Premier League. He obviously won the Liga a number of times. I think he's won 3 Champions League just with Real Madrid. Yeah, let me see. I think so. Yeah, so he's both of these guys, unparalleled workers, but they're both from the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, Spain. So many parallels there, and just in terms of having that rival who's considered more the natural talent, and both these guys being the great workers. And then it gets a little more entertaining as I go down the list here as I'm looking, because I thought Luis Suarez, such a talented just mercurial sort of player. But the first guy I really think of with Suarez is a guy I never really got a chance to watch. I just read about this guy, maybe seen some old grainy highlights, but Ili Nastasi, Nasty, or the Bucharest buffoon, as he was known. Just an enigmatic kind of guy. Could be a court jester, but at the same time, be nasty. He could play a lot of psychological games. I think he did win a couple of majors. He won, I think, in 72 and 73. I forget if it was Wimbledon, U.S. Open. But yeah, he was a champion as well. Great player. Great, obviously back then in the 70s, 80s, it was all about serve and volley, and points were quick and getting to the net, but great at the net, great volleyer. But yeah, to me, Suarez obviously is the vampire, the biting incident, kind of sort of in a way detracting from his great skill and his great accomplishments. Maybe he's a bit underrated in that regard because he's had so many sort of enigmatic incidents. Obviously, I think he's the only guy to be banned by FIFA. Maybe 4 to 6 months he was banned for that biting incident. I think that was his third biting incident with Chiellini, the Italian, in the World Cup. I think that was 2012. So, but playing alongside Messi, what an incredible striking front line that was. And just an incredible field, a great player, great field vision as well, likes to get people involved, great playmaker. But those guys, I almost thought about McEnroe and Suarez a bit. You can make a parallel if you sort of tried to. McEnroe, I think, is the only guy to get DQ'd from a major. Maybe that's still the case. I looked up, I think it was the 1990 Australian Open, 3 code violations in the same game, but in the same, yeah. Kind of the same game, same match, but I'm surprised that only happened with him once, actually. But the Mac attack was probably the first guy that got me into tennis. I love seeing the antics and the explosions. You can't be serious. And what I do today without with Hawkeye taking the place of lines people, I'm sure he'd still find someone to vilify, to demonize, to just to vent. But what a personality, what a player, what great hands. Maybe one of the most genius players, like I say, in many ways similar to Suarez in his playmaking, his ability to see things. So I think that's a good match. And then I think about Maradona. Think about how he's just revered, obviously, as in Napoli, as he's almost like a god there in Napoli. I think he led Napoli to their first ever title in the Italian league there a couple of times. And he has just the iconic goals, the hand of God, and then I think it was the greatest goal of all time that he scored in the World Cup. Was that a semifinal? Is that yeah, hand of God, and the goal of the century in the 1986 England quarterfinal, that was. So obviously winning the World Cup that year, but all his success, just a tremendously decorated player, but just a bulldog, just with that low center of gravity. And when he broke on the scene, obviously his ability to dribble and was, I don't think anyone's really played in that manner up to that point. You got guys like R9 who were great dribblers as well, but his ability to dribble and just play through contact and bulldog his way. I think that goal of the century, I think he went through 4 or 5 guys. I think it was 5 guys in his way to scoring that goal. But I think that sort of bulldog tenacity was mirrored in a guy named Jimmy Connors, just a guy that he was kind of against the grain, sort of. He didn't mind being the villain, the bad guy, but he was definitely a testy, sort of gruff kind of guy. He and McEnroe obviously had their run-ins, their clash of personalities. But in Jimmy Connors, in that time, as I said, 70s, 80s, it was dominated by serve and volley. That was the way to win points. You had the wooden rackets, you had graphite rackets breaking out of the scene a bit, but you couldn't generate the sort of baseline pace and spin. Obviously you do these days, but points were short, people got into the net, and Jimmy Connors was just a devout baseliner, playing with that flat style and that racket. You look back at that racket he used, I'm surprised. I'd hate to try to hit a tennis ball with that racket these days. But another bulldog, great tenacity. I think they mirror each other in so many ways, in personality and then accomplishments. And Jimmy Connors with it. Still has the record in tournament wins. I think it's 109 tournament wins. So an incredible winner. I think he had eight Grand Slams, if memory serves, 7 or 8. So that's where I'm going there. And then let's keep going. We've got 3 more here. And then you think about Carlos Alcaraz. I think you can't help but think about Yamal. Both of them young phenoms that have broken onto the scene and immediate success. Obviously, Alcaraz at 19 winning his first major. Yamal, what is he? Is he 20 now? But he's already been the Liga Player of the Year, I think last year, 25. But both incredible athletic talents, incredible speed, change of direction, just incredible athleticism. So I think they mirror each other. They're both Spaniards, of course, and so I'm sure they're good friends. Actually, they know each other, I would imagine. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the rest of their careers. I think they're going to continue to mirror one another in terms of accomplishments, style of play, and each of them getting better and better. Maybe Yamal becomes, if he's not already, the best player in the world. He's right up there. I mean, get Mbappe, Dembele, right up there among the best, if not the best. I don't know how many would recognize him now if he'd be considered the best, but he's right there. And then speaking of Dembele, I think his mirror is really his countryman, his French countryman in Monfils. You just look at the way they play the game. There's a lot of exuberance, a lot of joy, but there's a lot of first step quickness, a lot of incredible athleticism, speed. But there's a lot of inconsistency. There's a lot of course, more so in Monfils' case. You can't say necessarily he's had the success already that Dembele has. Is maybe now going to be the 2-time Ballon d'Or winner, a couple of championships with PSG. I think the best Monfils has done, I think he has 2 semifinal appearances at majors, but always an entertainer. And same thing with Dembele. I think they enjoy the flair. In many ways, that's a French way to play. I think the French really enjoy the flair in any athlete's performance. But those guys really remind me a lot of each other. And at times there can be dips in, like I said, the inconsistencies there, but dips in concentration, at times dips in performance with that. So both of them could use to get, of course, Monfils' days are done, but Dembele could be a bit more focused. But when you have that great a talent, I think you can, obviously, you've got carte blanche out there to sort of play the way you want to play, but those guys remind me a great deal of each other. And then lastly, we're going to go with this last one. There are many others we could delve into. Many that would just pop in my head for different players, such as Djokovic or you name it. But the last one I'm looking at is a bit sort of off kilter. I don't know why I even thought about these guys, but I look at Pirlo and I look at Thomas Muster, and they remind me a great deal of each other. Both of them really hard workers, a lot of grit. I know Pirlo had a difficult time breaking in the starting lineup, and especially earlier in his career. But he was just dogged determination. But I think he ended up, as they call it, 116 caps or international appearances. So he's been sort of a mainstay ever since he has proven himself. But he had to really work hard to prove himself. And I look at Thomas Muster, I think this guy is just a crazed, he was a crazed man when he was playing. And the king of clay at one point considered, and actually has a major, just like Pirlo has his World Cup. I think Pirlo, let's see, yeah, Pirlo had his World Cup, and then he had 2 Championship League titles, and say Muster had I think he had, let's see, 8 ATP Masters titles, so that was incredible. Not all on clay. I mean, he had, I think in 95, he had 12 tournament wins. So on a roll until he got injured. It just, the dogged determination of both of these guys was remarkable. It was, you weren't going to really outwork Thomas Muster, and you feel that same way about Pirlo. He's a tough bulldog in defense. So that's the lineup. Those are the comps. In World Cup time, I thought it was the best time to break these out. And say in the future, I'll probably do one with boxing. I feel like boxing is a good sport to comp with tennis, it being a one-on-one showdown type of sport. But let's get into a couple of these picks. On the picks, I'm actually going to take. I think I'm just going to go with two for now in this, just tomorrow's play. I'm taking the Peruvian Buse. He's plus 130 against Brooksby. So we're going to take Buse. And then I'm going to take Van de Zandschulp plus 115 against Safiullin. Safiullin had that hard work, hard-earned victory against Rublev, his countryman, 5 sets. And I think he fought off a couple of match points. Yeah, I went to that 10-point tiebreaker. I think it was 9-8 to 8-8. I think he was even down. You know what? He might have been down 8-5 in that tiebreaker. Now I'm thinking about it. And was on the verge of, I think there was a point there where it could have been 9-5. If I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, it was a hard-fought win. I think that's going to take something from him, but he's really playing well. I think that's his first tournament ATP win this year, I believe. But he's been winning a lot of matches on the challengers, really building up his confidence, and his form is good. But I think Van de Zandschulp, I like what I saw from him in the first round. I like his length. I like his game on grass. I think he's got a lot of variety in his game, which is always going to help you on grass. I think that's going to push him through. And those are the only 2 picks. So we'll rally back in a few days, maybe even probably 2 days in the next round, and get some more picks in. And we'll just continue to see how things bear out for the rest of the tournament and the rest of the season. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully that was entertaining. If you have any problems or issues with any of the comps, or any comps that you feel like are even more accurate, please share. Take me to task on these if you feel like I'm way off base. I know tennis, obviously. I know it more than I do, quite a bit more than I do soccer. As an American, I feel like I'm more of a fan from afar, but I've always followed it. But let me know. Let me know if you have any problems with it or anything you liked about it. And tune in for the next show, and then subscribe and get on board with Court Cowboy. And we will see you back soon.